You know what? I've given my. Where do you think they'll finish? That's the most interesting. Where do you think they will finish? Now, it's a very tough question to answer. In or out?
In.
Right. Oh, I've got a feeling they might be out, but anyway.
Yeah, so every year there's at least 2 teams that go out of the 8, and there's one team that goes from the 4 out of the 8 completely as well.
Yeah,
and that was Port Adelaide last season.
Yep.
But I think they jump back in this
year.
So
that's on an extension to your stats, which are correct. How often does a team go from 4 to out to right back in? That'd be interesting.
I'll tell you who'd know the answer to that, because I steal and I credit him, but Max Lawton is the guy that crunches those numbers on the ladder.
Oh, Max, get at
for
us.
Fox Sports. He would know. Might have to shoot him a cheeky text. He would have that data. I don't have it to hand at the minute. But Port Adelaide, harness Horne-Francis. That's a New Year's resolution, because if they make finals and Ken Hinkley gets another contract, if they don't, then the logic would say that he probably doesn't. And I believe that fit forwards equal finals for them. So they just didn't get their. They were never able to play their best forward line, really, I don't think, last year at all, with Fantasia being out injured, Dixon in and out a fair bit, and then trying to get that mix right with Marshall and Georgiades. But now they add Willie Rioli to the mix as well. If they can get Fantasia fit, that starts to look a lot more potent with the small forwards. You've got Rosie going into the middle and becoming All-Australian, and if Horne-Francis can take the step and be the player that many believe that he will be, then their midfield is a lot deeper than it's been for a long time. So I think they can get back in.
Yeah, they can. Oh, they can. But again, what I said earlier about relying on things that have let you down in the past. In terms of Fantasia, I think he's played more than 15 games once in his career. Dixon's a 33-year-old, or will be a 33-year-old key forward who's had some significant leg and ankle issues. So I think Marshall and Georgiades are the two that can really take them forward. And hand goes in the sky. I didn't think Marshall was probably going to be the answer or an answer, but his season last year was outstanding, and I am incredibly high on Georgiades. I think he's one of the more promising sort of hybrid / key forwards in the game. So
and will they
they've
keep
got a couple.
Him? Will they keep him,
Well,
JJ?
That's another conversation, isn't it? Had him traded about 7 times in trade week, and he stuck around. They've got a pretty good record, Port, in keeping their players. So you're more confident about Port keeping them than what we've seen with Adelaide over the past sort of 6 or 8 years. But it's a very, very good point.
What have you got for the Tigers?
A little play on words here.
Oh, hello.
A giant takeover. So, Jacob Hopper and Tim Taranto. Hello. I like the intro, but so nice we need to play it twice. I think Hopper and Taranto are the two who can sort of, really drive Richmond's whatever it looks like for them over the next decade, to be honest. They're both young enough to play another decade of footy. Two, top-tier quality midfielders, accumulators, both are better. So Hopper's, to me, a little bit more ability to run away from a contest.
Yep.
Taranto's got a bit of the Stephen Caniglio about him when he can go forward and
he replaced Toby Green and did well in that role when
he
Green
can
was
just
injured.
find a way to.
He's got tricks.
Guys who can. If you can win a contest around the ball, you can win a contest in the forward line. It shouldn't matter where you are on the ground. So he's one of those guys. So those two, really good pickups. Yeah, they cost plenty and this and that, but they are going to take them forward for a long time.
The last time they raided some of the expansion teams, over a couple of drafts, they were able to get Dion Prestia, Toby Nankervis, who actually came from the Swans, not an expansion team.
Tom Lynch.
And they got Tom Lynch as well, who played in their second and third flag. So that worked out pretty well for them. They're hoping for Taranto and Hopper to be more like that, and maybe not what the Hawks were hoping Mitchell and O'Meara would be, because those two were fine players and great servants of that footy club, and this isn't a knock on them, but the Hawks got them in because they thought they were still in a window. And it turns out that they weren't, and different circumstances conspired to mean that with Alistair Clarkson finishing up when he did in the way it did, and whoever and whatever. So they're hoping that goes a different way. The other thing I would say, New Year's resolution for them, and what about the freedom this will give Dustin Martin to come back and don't let Dusty be done. So only 9 games last year after finishing around 2021 in round 18. I reckon there's another chapter to write for Dusty. I think there is still a finale that
Yep.
fits his status and his impact on the game. I don't think he's a spent force, and I can't wait to see what that chapter is.
It doesn't matter if he is, because he's done more than most of us put together. But I think he might be. I think Richmond might be open to, maybe he's a 15-game-a-year type guy from now until the rest of his, or the end of his career. Maybe that's just how long he plays for. He plays the big games, and he might miss a trip to Perth, or he might miss a trip to Brisbane or something like that. I just wonder whether that might be the way they use him to keep him really revitalised and enthused and wanting to be out there. So, yeah, it'll be good to see. It'll be interesting to see how they use him, but he certainly won't have to be around the ball thanks to the two acquisitions.
So they can put him in at the centre bounce and then automatically just let him wander as he sees fit up forward. So I wonder what this will do for him from a body-wise point of view, because he won't have to be in there taking as many hits in the furnace as he may have had to, with Trent Cotchin coming to the end of his career as well. And then Dion Prestia has got his injury concerns. He's had a pretty wretched run, Dion Prestia, with injuries. Just when he gets back and gets a timely reminder, or we get a timely reminder of just how good a player he is, unfortunately, that he succumbs to another injury, which isn't his fault. So I just think that this might actually help with the longevity of Dusty getting Hopper and Taranto, and that's an exciting prospect.
Well, and this is why I like it, let's take Dusty out, let's take Cotchin out, and let's take Prestia out for either in 2 or 3 years, age, injury, whatever. Let's just take him out of the mix. You've still got Hopper, you've got Taranto, you've got Shea Bolton, who's as exciting and dangerous as they come in the AFL.
He'd be a sneaky Brownlow. What's he paying, about $80?
Liam Baker around the ball as well, who's incredibly valuable. They've got the makings of a really... Jack Graham, they've got the makings of a really strong and talented midfield, even without all those guys, who still are going to give them another 12, 24 months of service. So good times ahead for the Tigers.
Yeah, absolutely. 1300 736 736 if you're a Tigers fan. The other one, and this has come through off the text a little bit as well, but Richmond need to find out exactly what it is that Collingwood do to win those close games, because how many close games did Richmond lose last year? And, under a kick, single-figure margins, games that they probably should have won, and they just couldn't find a way to finish. So I reckon that's something that they would have done a lot of work on. Damien Hardwick's a brilliant coach, so I'm sure that that's something that they've addressed over the off-season. As the law of averages will tell you, that you're going to get, if you've got a year of no luck, you're going to get a year of, you are more likely to get luckier the next year.
Yes, well, you'd like to think so, and also you tend to be luckier when you've got Martin and you've got Grimes and you've got Cotchin out on the field, and you've got the steady heads and the guys who understand what to do. So that'll certainly help as well.
All right, before we get to Anna in the newsroom, what about the Saints, the New Year's resolution for the Saints?
I want to hear from Rossi, not Ross the boss. I want the Rossi that...
Yes, good time guy.
The Saints players talk about in terms of fun-loving and caring and empathetic, not Ross the boss. Ross the boss has got to be a thing of the past. You can't coach in that manner anymore. You need to be all of those things. You need to be caring and empathetic and understanding, and you need to deal with each player as an individual and understand that everyone is different. So that'll be his challenge, I think, Ross Lyon, in terms of, I think he'll work out how his team needs to play. He'll get that stuff figured out. He's too smart. But he needs to be the caring version of Ross Lyon, not the emphatic version of Ross Lyon. Yeah,
it was a weird end to the year for St Kilda with, locking in Brett Ratton and then unlocking him after a review, and then Ross is back. And what you don't want, their resolution for me, is don't allow the Ross Lyon reunion to be the highlight of the year. So getting Ross back with Lenny and BJ and Robert Harvey, if that's the best thing that happens to St Kilda going into this season, then that is another failure of a season. And in the short term, JJ, they've got to find a makeshift Max, because Max King looking like going to miss about a month, maybe more.
They do. I don't know what that looks like. Yeah, they do. That's a good point, and I don't have an answer for you. Swannies was to get some size around the pill, but also, having thought about this a little longer, Logan McDonald, I want him to overtake certainly Sam Reid, but even potentially as the season gets longer, for him to be the obvious choice to be their number one man long term. I think they've contracted him to be so. I think they invested 4 or 5 years in him. I think that's the case. Might be making that up, but I think I heard that he had signed a long-term deal. So he was a very high draft pick 4, I believe, and hopefully he can be sort of the next one to carry the Swans forward in that front half.
Yeah, so mine before was a simple one. Don't be GWS, Port Adelaide, the Western Bulldogs or Adelaide after getting a touch-up in a grand final. If you want motivation and you want to model yourself on anyone, model yourself on yourself. In 2015, the Swans were top 4 after being absolutely obliterated by the Hawks in the 2014 grand final. They didn't let it affect their performance in the next season. They still made top 4. They need to do so again. So don't follow that trend. What about the West Coast? So 2018, they were premiers, and now over 4 years later, they are at the complete opposite end of where the premiers reside.
Yeah, we need to see some green shoots. Josh Kennedy leaves. We've seen some of their ageing guys move on in the past 3 to 4 years, and there's probably a few more to come. McGovern's not getting any younger. Neither is anyone in the world. Nick Nui is another one. There's a few who probably going to finish up in the next 12, 24, maybe 36 months. So some green shoots. Now, they drafted a couple of young local stars. I think it was, is it Gibney from East Perth and young Hewitt from the Swans, the Swan District. So they get a couple of young...
Chester the year before, Yeah,
a couple of local young guns from the Waffle. Close to home.
They'll get more in. They'll get more in this year's draft too. They've got their eye on a few coming through there as well.
Have they just? Yeah, I thought the move for them to. I think they moved back from 2 to get 2 picks in the top sort of 12, and spoke about that about them needing to get a lot of young talent, not just one superstar young talent. So I thought what they did was good, but some green shoots for the West Coast Weagles.
The big O is the big in. Just set it all up around him. I know Jack Darling is still there, but the big O is your future. Get it in and get it around him and set the whole thing up in regards to him. He's back from injury. He's shown what he's capable of at the level. Give him the number 1 key forward mantle. That's the future there. And give your fans something to cheer about in the way that you go about playing this year. I don't think I would be astounded if they were to make finals, but give something to be enjoyed, which hasn't happened the last couple of years. Just because of time, let's quickly get to the Western Bulldogs. Your New Year's resolution for the Doggies?
Thank God they play at Marvel. When they don't, no rainy games, because they're going to be super duper tall. English and Lobb and Darcy and all Jamara Ugle-Hagan and the guys down back, they're going to be super tall. And I tell you, games where it looks like rain and storms, Luke Beveridge's going to be thinking about making 3 or 4 late changes, because they'll be top heavy in wet games. But thankfully, they play a lot of games under the roof.
Yeah, mine was the same. Find a way to fit all the big dogs into that kennel, because they're a large side. They're a very large side. Sam Darcy might be the only one that might give Will Ashcroft a shake in the Rising Star, similar to the way that Sam de Koning did for Nick Dacos this year. But my other one is, with Josh Dunkley going, and then to look at how you want to set up, Bailey Smith now on the ball all the time.
Ooh.
He's my Brownlow. He is my early Brownlow prediction. Bailey Smith on the ball, Brownlow.
Oh, I can't go with you. I have put so much value in guys who can run up and down the wing and be big meters game guys. I love those types of players. I've just got maybe a personal preference to them.
Yep.
I certainly understand how important midfielders are, or on-ballers are, but I love the wingers who get up and down the wing and drive the ball from very good at rebound 50s and also very good at inside 50s. I love those types. So I can't go with you. But what I can go with you with is they need him to be maybe their best player, maybe to overtake Bont. So I'm with you there.
Off the text, Doggies have to finish top 4. Their list is prime. They've added the players to fill the spots they need filled, and Sam Darcy is going to be scary good. Will win the Rising Star.